You ever have a day where the whole world seems just a hair's breadth from flying apart? Well, buckle up. Because what happened on Flight 2187 that morning still feels like the kind of story people tell in bars years later with a laugh or a sigh, or maybe both. It started with a slap, a real stinging, silence-cracking slap. Right there in first class, the kind that echoes off leather headrests and makes you rethink every life choice that got you 30,000 feet above Ohio in the first place. Let me back up a sec. My name's Sarah Mitchell, and for 19 years, I walked the aisles of Continental Airways with a tray in one hand and a professional smile on my face. That morning at O'Hare, I was just trying to hold my world together, newly divorced, flat broke, worried sick about rent and alimony and the mounting stack of bills that made sleep something other people got. I barely glanced in the mirror before pulling my hair into that regulation bun, my navy blue skirt feeling a little tighter than last year. At 5:15 a.m., Terminal 1 smelled like jet fuel and burnt coffee and hope trying to act like it wasn't outnumbered. It was day 4 of a 6-day rotation. My phone buzzed my ex-husband, no doubt calling about the check that hadn't cleared. I ignored him and took my place at security. "Morning, Mitchell," Raj said. He's been there as long as I've been flying part of the airport furniture. "Nothing friendly about a 5:45 departure," I muttered, forcing a grin. He just chuckled. I guess he could see right through me. Funny thing about rock bottom, it's always got another sub-basement. Back when I was married to Martin, life looked easy. Downtown wedding, summer trips to Santorini, the mortgage, and the club membership. Hell, it all seemed reasonable, right up until the night I found myself alone on our anniversary with a glass of flat champagne and nothing but pity from the wait staff. When Martin finally walked out, he did it with a lawyer's precision. Every asset lined up, every account drained, every last bit of dignity left to me in the form of a Lincoln Park townhouse I could barely afford for 6 months. I sold it at a loss. Friends faded away. I landed in a shoebox apartment in Uptown, learning the L train schedule by heart. By the time I made it to the crew lounge, I had had 3 cups of coffee and zero hope. Jessica Rivera, God bless her, walked in like she'd actually slept. "You look like you could use something stronger than that," she said, raising her eyebrows. Jess is the kind of woman who can make mac and cheese feel like a home-cooked meal and still manage a joke after a 12-hour shift. "Don't tempt me," I said, taking a too-hot gulp. I told her about Martin's latest. She just laughed. "Men," she said, with 19 years of rolled eyes. "One flight at a time, Sarah. Tonight we'll have wine in North Beach. My treat." For a minute, I actually smiled. Then Captain Robert Johnson walked in. 6'2", ex-military, built like he could land a C-130 on a gravel road and not spill his coffee. Behind him, his son Marcus trailed, tall, a little awkward 16, and wearing that nervous, trying to be small look that kids get when they know they're somewhere people don't think they belong. He was shadowing his dad, headed to Stanford the next day. "First time in first class?" Jessica asked him. "No, ma'am," he said, all politeness. "Just the first time without my mom." Boarding was the usual Zoo Suits retirees, Karen Whitfield from Boston, Platinum member, the kind of passenger who makes every gate agent question their career choices. She was already in a snit about not getting her favorite seat. When I greeted her, her eyes cut right through me, sizing me up, finding me wanting. Marcus kept to himself, reading some book on aerospace engineering headphones and doing everything right. But Karen, she made it her mission to point out he didn't fit the profile. She whispered to me, "That young man in 3A, I think there's been a mistake. Maybe check his ticket." I wanted to scream, but all I could manage was, "All first-class passengers are verified, ma'am. Can I get you a beverage, sparkling water with lime?" And still that looked like she was the queen and I was the help. You know what I mean? I tried to focus, going through the motions, drink seat belts, fake smiles, but Karen just kept at it. I don't mean to be difficult, she said, but I paid for a premium experience. I'm concerned about the atmosphere in the cabin. Her gaze slid to Marcus, then back to me. That kid didn't flinch, but I saw his knuckles go white around his book. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. We hit turbulence over the Rockies and Karen's mimosa went everywhere. My suit is ruined, she wailed. Who's going to take responsibility? I bit my tongue. I apologize for the turbulence, ma'am. She wanted compensation. She wanted more gin. She wanted me to check on Marcus because he looked ill. It never stopped. Every time I passed his seat, Marcus was the picture of calm. When I finally spoke to him, he told me about wanting to design planes, not just fly them. For a second, I saw him as a kid with dreams, not some problem to be managed. Aim high or stay on the ground, he said. His dad's motto made sense. But Karen wasn't done. She made a show of Marcus reaching for his earbud that fell under her seat, acted like he was trying to steal her purse. You can't just reach across my personal space, she snapped, loud enough for everyone to hear. He apologized. He always apologized. She turned to me. Maybe check his ticket again. And something in me finally snapped. His ticket is perfectly valid, Miss Whitfield, I said. He's exactly where he belongs. Her face went red. I disagree. I know when someone doesn't fit. She tried to pull the businessman next to her into it. The whole cabin watched, nobody wanting to get involved. Jessica pulled me aside. Let me take over, Sarah. You're shaking. I said no, I needed to handle it, but my hands were trembling. The world was spinning. I checked my phone, 3 calls from my landlord, a text from Martin saying he couldn't pay this month. The unfairness of it all hit me like a brick. Martin could just opt out, and here I was drowning. Karen's voice was getting louder now, addressing the cabin, talking about standards and how anyone can buy a first-class ticket these days. Marcus had his earbuds in, but I could tell he was listening. I gripped the galley counter so hard my knuckles turned white. And then Marcus stood up, reaching across Karen's seat for his earbud. Karen snapped assault. He's disturbing me. Passengers stared. I lost it. I raised my voice. Said things I shouldn't have told Karen. She was the only one out of place. Your comments have been noted, ma'am. Kindly keep them to yourself. Karen demanded my name, my supervisor. I gave her both loud and clear. Jessica tried to smooth things over. I just wanted to disappear. As we started our descent, Karen wouldn't sit. I'll speak to your superiors about this, she said. Passengers avoided her gaze. Captain Johnson's voice came over the PA calm as ever. I tried to hold it together. I apologized to Karen, swallowed every last bit of pride. Perhaps we could discuss your concerns privately, I offered. Now, you want to be professional, she snapped. This isn't over. When we landed, the cabin felt like a powder keg. Everyone silent, waiting. Karen made a show of pausing at the exit. I'll be speaking to your supervisor, she said, glancing at Marcus, who waited silent, a mark of pain and dignity. And then, look, I wish I could say I handled it with grace, but the truth is I didn't. Months, years of holding it in, of being told where I did or didn't belong, of watching people like Karen decide who deserved what, broke all at once. I snapped. I need to see your boarding pass, I told Marcus, loud enough for Karen to hear. He handed it over, confused. Well, what do you know, I said, holding it up. You don't belong in first class. You belong in the cockpit with your father, the man who flies this entire plane. Karen's smile faded. The cabin held its breath. Then in the mess of emotion, I did the unthinkable. I slapped Marcus. The shock of it, the heat in my hand, the sound, it was like watching myself from outside my own body. Captain Johnson's voice came over the speaker. Flight Attendant Sarah Mitchell, please report to the cockpit immediately. That's my son you just struck. Everything after was a blur. Jessica pulled me aside, whispering, What have you done? Captain Johnson met me in the cockpit, his face a mask of fury and pain. Can you explain why my son has your handprint on his face? He asked, his voice ice cold. I tried to explain about Karen, about everything. No excuse, he said. You lost control on my son. He didn't fire me on the spot, but told me there'd be procedures. Back in the cabin, Jessica managed the chaos. Passengers whispered. Karen tried to milk the scene for all it was worth. When it was over, Marcus, God bless that kid, told his dad I'd been trying to defend him. He didn't want to press charges. Captain Johnson told me you'll be suspended, counseling, but I won't recommend termination. Marcus asked me not to. He said you were the only one who treated him like he belonged. Redemption. I guess is a funny thing. I didn't deserve it, but there it was. I took the suspension. Jessica let me move in. I got counseling. Martin started paying finally after a legal threat. I started building myself back up, slow, messy, but real. Diane Johnson. Marcus's mom asked me to coffee, wanted to hear my side. Forgiveness isn't easy, but sometimes it happens anyway. 6 months later, I got a picture of Marcus at Stanford. Big grin, school sweatshirt. His dad said if I was on the crew list for their next flight, I'd be welcome. And I realized I'm not the same person I was. I made a terrible mistake, but I'm still here learning, rebuilding, showing up. I greet every passenger now like they belong because I know what it feels like when someone tells you that you don't. So if you've ever reached your breaking point or watched someone else come close, tell me, what would you have done? Where do you draw the line between defending what's right and losing control? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And if you stuck around to the end, hey, maybe hit subscribe. There's always another story just waiting to take off.